Do you know the five love languages? Have you heard of them? Yeah, here this is Anthony Moirore at Now Tell Us. And this is a show where we bring in guests to come and tell us stories, to come and inspire us, to come and educate us on a subject. Today, we'll be talking about love. Our guest today is known as Paul Zolman, and he's going to be here shortly to share with us the most effective way to demonstrate love every day. And I hope you're ready as I am to learn more. And before we go there, I would like to ask you to please share this episode with all your friends. If you have a question as we are going on, ask. We love feedback. And now I won't take one more minute because this is a day of love. Let's go and meet Paul here and now. Here we go. Hello, Paul.
Hi, Anthony.
How are you?
I'm great. Glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me to be on your podcast.
Yes, we are honored to have you here. Welcome to Now Tell Us.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Where in the world are you?
I am actually in just 2 hours drive north of Las Vegas.
Ah, Las Vegas.
Yeah, not
I know
not
Las
far.
I know Las Vegas for what it is famous for. The high life, the casinos and all these
Right,
things.
that's right. A lot of things that aren't quite loving. They think it's love, but it's not love.
Mhm.
So a lot of things going on there. It's a business. It's definitely a business.
Okay. And it's good to get to know from you what love is because you're going to share it with us. But before we go there, maybe you can bring us to the idea or let us know who Paul is.
Sure. Anthony, I think I'd like to just give you a kind of a little backstory about how this all came to be. And through that backstory, you're going to find out a little bit more about me and who I am.
Go
And I
ahead.
want to start with my grandfather. He lived in the late 1800s and the 1900s, but he was married, had 9 children, and after that ninth child was born, his wife suddenly passed away. He
Oh.
must have been very distraught at the time, 9 children, and he was working and didn't know what to do. So, what he decided to do was sell the farm, sell all the equipment. And when people came up to pick up the equipment, he said, "And would you like this child? And would you like this child? And would you like this child?" Until all the children were gone except for one. He gave all the children away, and then he moved to another part of the United States in Montana, and found a wife, found a school teacher that had never been married, and that became my grandmother. And with her he had 10 more children, and
Mm.
of which my father was number 6. So my father was born in 1922, and when he was 10 years old in 1932, his father passed away. So this grandfather passed away. So now you have 19 children that are abandoned, no no father around at all. And so imagine they're feeling that abandonment issues, but it's 1932 also. It's the depth of the Great Depression,
Mm.
the economic issues and the things going on there could have really stressed the family, and I think it did, because my father toned it down a little bit. He didn't have 19 children. I'm only number 10 of 11 children. So he
Mm.
had less children. And then for me, I only had 8. So we're whittling it down now. So and my children only have 3. So it's just not as big as families. But
Mm,
what happened is my father, because he was 10 years old when his father passed away, they didn't have the economics that they needed for him to continue to go to school. So
mm,
he had to drop out of school after eighth grade, graduated from school at eighth grade. And
mhm,
so, with that kind of education, he was able to become a truck driver. So Anthony, he was gone during the week, then home on the weekends.
mhm,
So every Friday he'd come back home. Every single Friday he would date my mother. Beautiful thing that he did. A great example for me about sending love to your significant other.
mhm,
But he wasn't very creative. It was always the same place, always the Maverick Bar, always included drinking. And because I'm number 10 of 11, I imagine my mother started telling about how her week went with all the children, started at the oldest child
mm,
down. And as my father's listening, he's getting angry, 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 and now he's ready to blow. And now it's my turn that she's telling about me. So I feel like I got the brunt of most of what was going on in the whole family, and I feel like I got the punishment. That and because my father valued women so highly, I was sandwiched between two girls. All the rest were boys.
mm,
So if I did anything mean to the girls, I caught it really bad.
mhm,
One time I don't even remember what I did, Anthony, but one time I was spanked so badly that my rear end was black and blue for 3 weeks or more.
mm,
It's just a very severe. It was a kind of an abusive situation growing up. I didn't know any different, so I didn't know who to talk to or how to get help for him or for me. I didn't know how to do any of that. So the only thing I figured out was that, well, if I leave home, then I'm not going to be there. So after my junior year of high school, I left home and finished my senior year of high school on the road. And during that time, I lived with my brother, and his company transferred him down to California. And
mhm,
so from that time, I just started. I started writing my parents because I was distanced from them, and I wanted to do the thing to honor them, like the Ten Commandments. The fifth commandment is to honor your father and the mother. And
yeah,
so I was really wanted to do that, and so I started writing them letters, and I wrote them. Decided I was going to write them once a week, every week.
mhm,
So I tried it for 2 years. After that 2 year time period, I thought, you know what, this is probably a pretty good habit, and you want to keep good habits in your life. So that's what I thought I'd do. So I
mm,
kept doing it. I did it for 32 years. My father passed away um, on his 65th birthday, but I kept writing my mother. And so I've had 32 years of letters, over 1,500 letters that I wrote my parents during that time until they passed away. So I've got all those letters back. So it becomes kind of a love legacy for me about turning around that anger into love, and trying to honor my parents, even though it was adverse circumstances for them and it was very difficult for them, trying to turn that around.
mhm,
But I still struggled. As an adult, found myself blaming my father for all the failed relationships, all the social awkwardness that I had, just because of his own social awkwardness. It's like generationally, from my grandfather to my father to me, it was all passed down generationally,
mhm,
not genetically, but generationally.
yeah,
What they our parents teach us what they know, and
yeah,
then it's just passed down that way. So I wanted to learn a little bit more. I wanted to get a college degree and that sort of thing, and I started just making declarations that I'm not going to be angry,
mhm,
because I found myself also stacking those annoyances, and then I'd flash. I just have this angry flash that would happen.
mm,
And just the very idea of making a negative statement, though, didn't help.
mm,
I'm not going to be angry is a very negative statement.
Yeah.
It's like a double negative there, and it didn't work for me. So I keep going, and then finally, it ruined my first marriage for me. Just those
Mm,
flashes, it was part of what there were other things, but that was part of what ruined a marriage, and it was just a sad situation because we had 8 children. So
mm,
I had primary custody of the remaining 5 children that were left in the home at the divorce, and then we just on the weekends that we it was her weekend to have the kids. I would be out going around doing what I call destination dating. So the woman would live in a different town, and I'm where I'm at, and we decide on a place that we're going to meet. Then we have a date, and so I did that for a year and a half. Had a great time. I went to Florida, and I went to New York City, and I went to Phoenix, and Salt Lake City, and Cabo San Lucas, and Nashville. Just a lot of different towns. Atlanta, Georgia. Went to all these towns. Las Vegas. All those towns having a date. But I could not find love, and felt like I was looking, like the song says, I was looking for love in all the wrong places.
mm-hmm,
wasn't finding anything. But so in that time, my older sister, thought I was lonely, very lonely. And at the time, I moved to Phoenix, Arizona, and she was 7 hours away. And, and she called me and said, I have a neighbor that I want to introduce to you. Seven
mm-hmm,
hours away. I said, you know what? I did destination dating for a year and a half, spent more than $10,000 doing that. I don't want to do it anymore. And she said, oh, come on. And you got to do what Big Sister says, you just
mm-hmm,
have to do it. So I said, okay, well, I'll start writing her. I'll write her a little email or something like that. And so we started corresponding a little bit, and it just really kind of turned out kind of fun. It was really kind of exciting. And so I decided, after about 4 months of that, I decided to move up to where my sister was. And when I moved there, it just, the relationship with the neighbor just started to blossom. Now it's time to take this woman up to Big Brother for Big Brother approval.
mm,
Excuse me. And so we travel up to my brother's house, 300 miles away, travel up there. And first thing that happened when we brought her in is that my sister-in-law pulled her aside and said, the only emotion that the Zolman family learned growing up is anger. At first I denied it, said, then it made me mad. I thought, she nailed it.
mm-hmm,
And so I got mad, and I thought, if there's any opportunity to change that perception of the Zolman family, now's the time. Now's the time to stop all that and just forget that type of behavior. So I
mm-hmm,
started reading different books. I read The Color Code, and then I settled on the 5 love languages. I really liked the principles of the 5 love languages. So I
mm-hmm,
read the book 4 or 5 times. But even after reading the book 4 or 5 times, I couldn't tell you, I couldn't spit out what the 5 love languages were. If I was tested, I'd probably fail. I wouldn't get 100%.
mm-hmm,
I might be able to tell you a few, but I wouldn't get 100% on that. So it really didn't sink inside me. And that was a problem. The part of the problem with it was the application of it, Anthony, that if I guess what love language you are, and if I cater to that, we're going to be buddies.
mm-hmm,
I'm a really bad guesser. It's not going to happen. So
mm-hmm,
that didn't work for me. Then the second thing that Dr. Chapman has in the 5 love language book is that, well, if you take this survey, then you can find out what your love language is. What am I supposed to do with that, Anthony? Advertise? Hello, Anthony. I'm Gifts. What do you have for me today? That's a little awkward, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
is. Mm-hmm,
So that didn't work for me either. So I thought I liked games when I was a kid. And I remember games pulling our family together, something cohesive like the glue that holds family together.
mm,
Just spending time with your family holds it together. And I thought, maybe I can make it a game. So I contacted Dr. Chapman and asked, are you licensing those little icons, those little pictures that you have of each one of the love languages? And his attorney wrote back and said, no, we're not doing that right now. I said, oh, thank you. And I went to a copyright attorney in my town. He said that principle or theory is not copyrightable.
Mm.
Application is. And so I with that, I made my own icons and made it a game. And
Mm-hmm.
so this is what it looks like. So it's just a dice that I
Okay.
created. So it has that one is service. You've got the words,
Mm-hmm.
time, touch, and the gifts. So
Mm-hmm.
those are the five love languages. There's six sides on the die. So this one is one I made up. It's called Surprise Me. On
Mm.
that day, it's just random acts of kindness or dealer's choice or however you want to say it, mystery. It's just whatever you're watching for opportunities to love all day long. So Anthony, there's just two instructions for the game. You roll the die every day. That's the love language you practice giving away all day that day to
Mm-hmm.
to everybody. So no longer is it just a significant other, because as I read that in Dr. Chapman's book, I thought, just significant other? I was single. I didn't have anybody. I didn't have a significant other when I created this. So what
Okay.
am I supposed to do? So I thought, well, I'll just give it to everybody. And as I've done that, I've realized that just like the habit of writing letters was a good habit,
Mm-hmm.
giving it away all day to everybody, being that type of person, choosing to have that kind of character was very important for me. And it'll be important for your listeners as well. This
Mm.
is something that nobody can take it from you.
Mm-hmm.
Sending love out and without any expectation of it ever coming back, and but trusting that it's a boomerang, and it's like the law of the harvest. You send it out, it'll come back after many days.
Mm.
Contrast that to anger. You send anger out, you get an immediate return on your investment. It's coming right
Yeah.
back to you. And
Mm-hmm.
who wants that? Who wants people to be angry? And who wants to make somebody have a bad day? So what you're doing with this is you're watching for people to light up, and when they light up, you're making their day. And they're going to go to their neighbors, and they're going to go to the other people they associate with, and they're going to just be happy and try to make their day. It's a pass it on type of thing. And it's kind of a pay it forward type of thing. So that's the game that I created, and that's kind of who I am, where I am right now.
Wow. That's a good story. A good introduction to whom you are.
Thank you very much. What I found, Anthony, is that it only took me
Mm-hmm.
30 days to change the mindset. And
Okay.
I was surprised. I was surprised how fast. Remember I told you about stacking those annoyances and then having that angry flash. I
Yeah.
don't I don't have that anymore, and
Mm.
it actually it was totally eliminated, because what I found is the behavior of watching for what's right about that person, what can I love about that person, versus what's wrong with that person. If you find fault with people, you find their weaknesses, or you focus on that, that's going to be an annoyance for you. You have no control over that.
Yeah.
You don't have any control over what they're doing. And so
Exactly.
stay out of that lane. It's not your lane. Stay
Mm-hmm.
out of it and just focus on what's right about people. What what can you love about them? You won't even I was so busy doing that, I couldn't even think about being angry or upset or annoyed at anybody.
Mm. Yeah, and I agree with you because it goes that whatever you focus on, that's what you magnify. So if I'm
Mhm.
going to search for the wrong thing, what the other person is not doing right, then that's what is going to magnify. That's what I'm going to see more.
Well,
And
and it's coming right back to you.
yeah,
So
and
if you're magnifying their faults, guess what they're gonna do right back to you?
they
Yeah.
will, yeah.
So I'm glad you brought the word magnify up, because that's exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever we magnify is going to grow larger. So we
Mm-hmm.
want their faults to grow larger? Why? Why would we even do that?
We
And
shouldn't.
why would you send that out? So you want the good to grow larger, you send that out, and then they're going to look for the good in you as well. So that's the whole concept.
That's good. Now, when you said giving it out, we may not very get it clear. When you came up with the game, do you go giving out the game or do you just go give out the practice of loving, giving the
That's
five?
it. Exactly. So you're giving out love.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever you've rolled on that day, so on this day, you're spending a little bit more time with people. You're putting on the brakes a little bit. So I've got time up there. On this day, you're serving them. You're giving a little bit more time to wash their car, or you're giving a little bit more time to wash the dishes, or vacuum the rug, or whatever needs to be done. You're
Mm-hmm.
spending more time serving others. On that day, on the words day, you're just looking for something to compliment, something that's right about them that you want to talk about. You want to say what's right about them. You're just trying to uplift people every day. So
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't cost any money to do that. On the touch day, it might be, you might think it might be tricky, but it's really not. So that's when you're doing the high five, the fist bumps, and you're doing the pats on the back. That's what you're doing on those days. So it really has nothing to do with romance anymore at
Okay.
all.
Mm-hmm.
Romance, especially if you're doing with this with your significant other, romance is going to be kind of a natural result of just those stacked up kindnesses. By the end of the day, you're feeling that you feel like you want to be even closer to that person, that's your significant other, and the romance will happen automatically. It's kind of a byproduct of loving in appropriate ways. Otherwise, you're warming it up. You're just stacking that up, and just making sure that your significant other feels really important, and
Mm-hmm.
they feel loved, and then the natural result would be the intimacy that
Wow.
most people think that's the only thing that love is. It's not.
It's
There's
not.
a lot more to it.
Okay. Wow. Thank you very much for that. For those of you who may be joining us now or got us going on, we are talking about the most effective way to demonstrate love every day by Paul Zolman here. And as I was looking on your profile, I discovered that there's a book there, and maybe
Yeah,
not one, there's several.
yeah. There you go.
Role
Yeah.
of Love, the most
So
effective. That's where we are basing our discussion on. Yeah. So did this come first, or did the game come first? Which of them?
the die actually came first. So that's a good question. I had the die, and I created the die and had it copyright in 2017. And so the way this came to be is I was showing the die to a mental health professional,
Mm-hmm.
and they said, "This is fabulous, but you need to have a book. You need to have kind of instructions that go with it, so people understand that this is really different. This is just an easy way for them to stay in their lane, to do what they have control over." So you're sending it out. You're sending it out over a 30-day period, Anthony. You're actually becoming an expert, a love language linguist is what I would call it.
Mm-hmm.
That the love languages backwards and forwards. By doing that, when it's coming your way, you can recognize it. Most people can only recognize their primary love language, what they like.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they call their primary love language. And most people can only recognize that as love. This changes the whole game.
Mm-hmm.
You can see different ways and you understand different ways that people like to be loved because you're sending it out. You're watching for when they light up, and when they light up, you're taking the mental note that, oh, that's what they like. That must be close, or maybe one of their primary love languages. When they send it to you, though, you've got peripheral vision. Even if it's not your primary love language, you can say, oh, it's over here. I can see that they're loving on me. I can respond appropriately to that. And so the exchange that way is a whole lot better. And part of the problem I think that Dr. Chapman was trying to solve is that the communication between couples, if they can understand when their spouse is loving on them, even though it might not be their primary love language, if they can understand that that spouse is sending love to them,
Mm-hmm.
then it's going to be a whole lot better communication. And I would suggest that the watching for them to light up is a whole lot more accurate than a survey.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't no longer have to stop the relationship or pause the relationship and say, oh, by the way, could you take this survey so I know how to love you? You
Mm-hmm.
don't have to do that. That's totally awkward, and you wouldn't want to do that anyway. You watch when they light up, and they'll definitely light up when you hit on what their love language is.
Mm-hmm.
Just use your observation skills. That's how you discover what their love language is. There's one other thing that I've created as well is a journal, and then on the journal there's a page that says what you rolled that day, what opportunities you saw to love in that way that day, and then what you did about those opportunities. So you can actually keep track. It's like becomes a love journal, and it's a
Okay.
love legacy journal. And I think that this is something that really could help in the school system. Schools around the world are really getting very violent. They're getting a lot of misbehaving going on. If
Mm-hmm.
if in the younger classes where they're together from the morning to the end of the afternoon. So where they're still together, if they roll the die first thing in the morning, it takes 2 seconds, maximum 2 seconds to roll the die. Maybe another 30 seconds for the teacher to say, class, this is the type of love that we're watching for, opportunities to love in this way today.
Mm-hmm.
The end of that discussion. So it takes maybe 30 to 60 seconds of the day, start the day like that. And then the children are watching for opportunities to love. At the end of the day, the kids are so anxious and so rambunctious that last 10 to 15 minutes of the day, they're anxious. They know the bell's going to ring. It's really kind of a non-productive time. I've asked many teachers if that's a productive time of the day. They said it's not because the kids are ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
If they took that non-productive time and had the children write what they rolled that day, what opportunities did they see to love in that way, and what they did about those opportunities. Now that teachers taught the children to watch their own actions.
Mm-hmm.
They're suddenly responsible for their own actions. I blamed my father till age 35. It took me to age 35, Anthony, to realize that I'm responsible for my own actions. If we can teach that responsibility in the school system, I
Mm-hmm.
think we're going to tamp down a lot of that misbehaving because now suddenly they realize, oh, I'm going to be responsible. At the end of the day, I got to write about what I'm doing. I've got
Mm-hmm.
to write about the love that I'm doing through the day. And in my area that I live, I've got a franchise of Yogurtland yogurt. It's a self-serve yogurt there, soft serve yogurt.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy said that if they'll record what they did for 15 days of the month, they'll get 5 ounces of yogurt for free.
Mm.
If
I,
they'll do it,
I
if
should
they'll do
start thinking of moving to your state.
Yeah, yeah, so it's kind of a little motivation, absolutely. So if
Mm-hmm.
they'll do it for 25 days, that's every day of the school month. They'll do it for 25 days, he'll give them 10 ounces of yogurt for
Oh,
free.
oh, that's good.
So it's just a program that can be worked out in a lot of different ways, something that people, they'll grab onto that and take it and make it a little bit more peaceful around the world. Just
Mm.
let's start loving a lot more. We can send it out.
Yeah, let's start loving a little more because the world has changed. The world is going in the wrong direction. I mean, what
To-
we understand to be love is not what love is exactly. So it's good to be reminded on a daily basis what love is. And this is a good game. Now, where can this game be found and the book and anything
So
else that is associated with that?
yeah, so the book and the dice can be found on my website. It's just rolloflove.com. They spell roll ROLE of love.com. And the book, and if you're listening to this and you like listening to books, I do have an Audible, but you'll have to go to Amazon for that. So the Amazon, just go to Amazon. Don't type in roll of love because you're going to get love this, love that, love a million things. And it's going to be like a needle in a haystack trying to find that. If you'll type in my name, Paul Zolman, on Amazon, you'll be able to find the journal and the book, the Kindle version and the Audible version, all that. But to get the die, then you've got to go to my website.
Okay, thank you very much for sharing that. You've heard it all. All of you have heard about the most effective way to demonstrate love every day. Now you can go get the die, go get the book, and if you had a challenge before of expressing your love in the most effective way, then this is your opportunity to uh, move in the right direction. This has been Now Tell Us. We are almost coming to the end of the show, and we thank you very much, Paul, for coming here.
Thank you, Anthony. Been a pleasure.
Yeah, but before we go, please leave us with a few words that we should always remember. Which are they?
Okay, so one thing that I want you to always remember is this is very similar to what people say at the end of a yoga class, and it's very similar. They put their hands together like this, and they say namaste.
Namaste.
So namaste means that the God in me sees the God in you, or the divine in me sees the divine in you. This is exactly what we're trying to do with this, is watch for the divine in other people. Watch for that, talk about it, and identify it. Some people can't see it themselves. They're too close to the forest to see the trees. So if you talk about it and tell them what a good person they are, they'll light up. That's what we're trying to do. Let's make people's day and see the God in them, see the divine in them every single day.
Wow, thank you. That's good. See the divine in you, the divine in me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you very much, Paul.
Anthony, you're great. Thank you for being a great host.
Yeah, thank you. So I also want to thank all the viewers, all the listeners, even those who get to listen to this after we have recorded it. We also appreciate you taking your time. Thank you very much also. Remember to share this with all your friends, subscribe to our channels, and yeah, go and get the die and the book.
Great. Thank you again.
Yeah, that's it for today. This has been Now Tell Us. I've been your host, Anthony Morore, and together with our guest today, Paul Zolman, is saying, keep loving. Bye.
Bye bye.